You're listening to Synergy to Synastry, the podcast where two corporate girlies called to follow their intuition take you on a journey of self-exploration through metaphysical modalities.
I'm Christine, intuitive coach and clairvoyant.
And I'm Renee, psychic intuitive and astrologer.
We're excited that you're here and honored to be your spiritual guides. If you enjoy this podcast, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen. It helps listeners find our show, plus it automatically enters you into our raffles to win a free psychic reading.
Now, let's get into the episode. Hello, listener. I am bringing you another life update and psychic reading episode. It's been almost 2.5 months since I recorded my last update, and a lot has happened. You've heard some little mini versions of updates kind of sprinkled into the podcast during the Soul Rising Book Club episodes, as well as the In Practice part 3 of each of the mini-series. But this is the formal life update. I was looking back at the notes that I had written for the first one. I was like, wow. How different is my life at this point? How much have I gone through in 2026? So much, and I expect it will continue. But here's hoping things will start settling. Astrologically, it's supposed to. But it has been a crazy time these first several months of the year. In my last update, I spoke a lot about creating new boundaries with my routine. That got completely blown up over the couple weeks that followed. It was hilarious listening back, even just when I was editing. I was so excited. I was so happy in that episode. Like, yay, I put this new process in place. This is awesome. This is great. And within a couple weeks after that, I had to make the choice to pause those changes I had made because I needed to go into extreme operation mode. I had so many initiatives. We were preparing for the wedding shower. And I was doing this design of the bingo cards, bane of my existence. There was just a lot going on, and I did not feel super great and wonderful. I've talked a little bit about this in some recent episodes, which have already come out. Yeah, it was a huge, huge relief. When I got to the other side of that huge hill, or maybe it's valley, am I climbing up or is it a pit of despair? Either way, I spent the next month literally just playing catch up. I was able to put some of the boundaries back in place, not fully, so it was like half doing it or not all the way, like my 6 p.m. ending my work time. I am some months out and I have not reinstated that practice, but I have been more consistently not bringing my computer down and continuing work. It's just that I haven't been able to get back into a position where I can fully log off that early. And part of it has to do with the number of meetings that I have during the given week has gone way up. And as people who are familiar with this type of a schedule, you're in so many meetings, the meetings run long, and then you have no time to do the action items from the meetings because you're jumping right into another one. And while I made a lot of progress, I was going through the backlog for my video editing for my business, catching up on podcast editing, to-do list items for my W-2. I was getting some of those things done. I never was fully catching up during that month after, and now I'm in the month following. I knew the second this month started, oh no, this month might feel like a nightmare because I was just looking ahead at my schedule. And I knew it was going to be busy yet again. So I was going to have to make some concessions, some adjustments. I've been receiving a ton of nudges, in other words, signs, from books I'm reading, workshops I'm watching, conversations that I am having, things that I am journaling on, channeling about, even my own week ahead and month ahead forecasts. I go back and listen to them. I'm like, LOL, why didn't I take the hint? I wasn't paying attention at the time. This was also directed at me. I'm in the collective. All of these drum beats have been hit over and over and over again, especially in the last few weeks, to have me not be stuck on the expectation that I need to get back to where I was, because the rigidity is not helpful. The rigidity is something that I actually need to get away from. So instead, it's about encouraging me to just sprinkle in some small practices, such as mudras, which has come up over and over again. I actually was at an appointment and I was waiting in the waiting room and I was doing the mudra that Lisa talked about in her workshop, and I was practicing it again. So I'm like, I got to do it at least a few times here, because otherwise I'm going to forget what the actual hand positioning is. So I wanted to practice it, and I did that to ground myself while I was waiting to go into the appointment. I want to start developing a practice where if I have all of these meetings, even if it's 1 to 3 minutes as a quick break, other than sprinting to the bathroom or refilling my water, to just lay down on the floor for a few minutes. I could do mudras. I could take some deep breaths. I could hit all of these tools at the same exact time, give myself an opportunity to disconnect in order to reconnect, because that's a little bit of my challenge right now. While I'm feeling so much better than I did 2 to 2.5 months ago, there's still a lot. It still feels very hectic. I want to be in a more aligned place. I want to feel more like things aren't just getting away from me, or that my body is totally messed up because I'm carrying so much tension, or I'm sitting all the time in this chair. I need disruptors, and I need to have this self-awareness enough in the moment to start using them, rather than just keep going, keep going, keep going. I'll do this, I got to do that. I knew what was happening, and I knew that I wanted it to be over, but I was more in the panic of, I don't know what to do here. And now I feel like I've learned all of the tools, so they can be enacted now and be implemented as preventative measures for a future date if things get out of whack again. So this really is a time for experimentation. I just feel like I need to get my feet under myself more. And I know that that is the signal and sign that I have to do more grounding work. And for me, breath work has always helped me give that quick, whoo, wow, I suddenly feel completely different. All of these structures for me to detox from tech first thing in the morning, last thing at night, my Monday psychic, intuitive check-in, journaling, planning opportunity, all of those just went right out the window. Starting tomorrow, it's going to be starting tomorrow or starting tonight. I can do the lack of technology tonight. Yeah, I know that those are adjustments I have to make. And this is a lesson in not being hard on myself when I let things slip. And actually, slip sounds really negative. It makes it sound like, oh no, I completely dropped the ball. I'm still functioning, and I can still laugh and have fun and connect with people and have some social time. It's just I want to have more light, more joy to counterbalance the heaviness. I'm working on training myself out of the habits that I picked up over the course of most of my career that I know and I talk to others about. And this is just round 5 or 7 or whichever one we're on of me being tested yet again, because I'm not 100% learning the lesson. My trajectory is going in the right direction, but it's going to continue to take more work. And I know that. And I know some of it is not just from conditioning. It's from my personality. It's from how I function and operate. I'm really inclined to just completely swerve in that direction. It's like a magnet, and I keep getting drawn back to it, even though I'm saying, I don't want to do that. And yet it will happen. Maybe not all the way. I get pulled. I get pulled in that direction. I don't want it to continue. So that is where I'm at in this moment. The other piece related is I've also been thinking, one has to wonder, why is it that I'm going through this journey? I'm having these types of thoughts. And then also at the same time, I have all these other memories that are surfacing. To me, this is intuition, because I'm walking around minding my own business. And it's like I'm getting hit with flashbacks of my last relationship. I would say last serious relationship, but last relationship period. I've been on 2 dates since that relationship ended, which, for context here, because time flies, that was before this podcast even started. I had ended that relationship in July 2023. And talk about divine timing. When this episode comes out, it's going to be just a couple weeks before that 3-year mark. And on one hand, I sit here stunned. Only 3 years? It feels like it's been 5 to 6, at least double that time. But I've done so much. I've experienced so much. I have evolved so much, even though I know I have further to go. Part of this equation here with everything I'm talking about with wellness, work-life balance, hello, only had 2 dates, but where was the time? I barely even have time to take care of myself in certain ways, let alone being in a partnership and being able to give to them the way that I would want to. And in some ways, it's not giving too much because I have a pattern of doing that, over giving, then I'm shrinking. It's about accommodating rather than meeting, then compromise, then being able to be in a position where I can ask for what I need. I have to sort out my relationship with myself first, meet my own needs on a consistent basis. And that is something that I know is my current journey. And as that gets more solidified, there's going to be people that just appear suddenly, are presented, and maybe they are a good option, and maybe they're not. Maybe they are a test of my resolve to see if I can stick to what I have been working on in private. If I can't, I'll have to deal with that, get out of it, learn the lesson again. So the more that I can, quote, get good at this, then the easier and smoother it'll be when that next great person hopefully is there and available, because they could be in a relationship right now. And that's okay, because I'm not ready for them. And when I am, I know that it will work out. I know that the timing, I keep getting messages about that. I've had that come through in mediumship readings that I've received. I just know it's true. And I know that I don't have to worry about it as much as there's societal pressure. And, I've had another birthday, and you look at the calendar, you look at the clock, you hear people talking about this and that and the other thing. And I know that I have more important work and things to attend to on my agenda for right now. It's a distraction. It's only helpful if it will help me heal. So unless I have somebody comes in who can act as a catalyst, who can support me in this direct work I am doing right now, even if this is a bridge relationship, it's just going to take away. For reference, this is all channeled messaging, and I know it's true. My focus right now is self-nurturance, and we'll see. Other updates I had to share since we last chatted here. I think it was in the Soul Rising episodes. Somebody talked about past life readings. I finally did one. As of the time of recording a couple weeks ago, I made sure to do it when I wouldn't fall asleep, aka not right before bed. I needed to be sitting up, needed to be randomly in the middle of the afternoon so I could be present, so I could remember it. And I took notes straight in here for the podcast. I haven't even looked back at these since I recorded them. The visual that came in for this specific life was a cartoon of a man in overalls, and he was working alone out in a field with a pickaxe. Does he have family? Are there connections? So I was getting that there was no family, but there was a dog, and the understanding that his circadian rhythm was off, and he was putting in a lot of effort to bulk up. Like all of a sudden his muscles were growing and he was huge. He was looking like a bodybuilder. But then he got too top heavy and he tipped over and fell over on the ground. And then I was seeing this visual that his heart was too small because he didn't have passion in his life. So the lesson here from this past life was finding and following passion. I got some recommendations for things in this present life that I could focus on. It was, quote, what to fix now. Remember everything I just said 2 minutes ago? Those are my organic thoughts from today in this moment. And I had not looked back at these notes. They were just tucked in here. I literally wrote connection over disconnection. And what we think is connection is disconnection because it's disassociation and overload. That is exactly what I just said. Okay. This episode was meant to happen at the exact time that it did. Peek behind the scenes here. I have moved the recording for this update. I can't even tell you how many times because I kept being too busy and I kept moving it. And apparently I needed to talk about it right now so I could have a cohesive theme and discussion point. I'm still back in the reading here. That was just my side commentary on it. But the next scene in this past life reading was the insight that he was never actually alone in the field. So I was starting to see the sun coming up on the horizon line, a bunch of people appearing around him. The message here was that it was just his viewpoint. He was so focused on the work, the thing that he was doing, his task with his pickaxe. And yes, he was building some muscle because he was working really hard, but then it didn't pay off because, he had fallen over. And that lack of family was his regret. It was that hole in his chest. It was his heart being the Grinch 10 sizes too small. The fact that I am sharing this past life reading after everything I just talked about, relationships, work-life balance, your heart giving and receiving love. What does passion mean? That feels like it's a big takeaway because work can be your passion. So when you're saying finding your passion, is it your job, volunteering, being with other people, thrills, experiences, travel? What is it? Because it can be so many things. It can take so many shapes and forms. And it seems like that's the larger conversation here. With all of the other work that I'm thinking about and doing, maybe that's a good journal prompt question for myself. What is my actual passion? And I'm getting the note here in my head. It's not about what you want the passion to be, not about making it practical. The point is it should feel dreamlike. It should feel big and imaginative and expansive. Because the field that he was in, you couldn't see the end of it. It was wide, it was huge, but he was so limited and so focused on just the thing in front of him that he couldn't even see that. He couldn't even take in the awe, the beauty of the reality, the potential. He could have worked in any part of that field, and he was just in his one spot, this one area. In the third installment of the Soul Rising Book Club, I shared a memory that popped in while discussing Emma's story, that I had collected rocks when I was a kid and would put them at the base of this tree next to our house. And I don't really know how long I did this for. I don't think it was super long, not to the point that I viewed collecting rocks as any sort of a hobby. It wasn't about studying them scientifically, but at some point it also abruptly stopped. I didn't really keep a pulse on this, but it was a thing that I knew that I did and I forgot about. So I wanted to research that a little bit and give the update on the spiritual significance. Rocks, I found in my quick online research, were viewed as living entities in ancient times and held the memory of the land. So if you put them at the base of a tree, which of course had its own significance, I'll get to in a second, it was a way of connecting with ancestry. I was pretty sure that the tree was an oak tree, and I confirmed with my mom that's what she thought it was too. So I researched what's the significance of oak trees, and I was seeing, lo and behold, discussion of ancient Greece. Oak trees were actually viewed as oracles that offered wisdom when the sound of the wind rustled through the leaves and branches. In ancient Rome, oak trees became a masculine symbol of imperial rule. So we have a through line to both cultures we've already talked about this season, and this will connect to the third culture. So little did I know that trees were apparently going to be the through line for season 3. More specifically, I wanted to read this quote from one of the articles that I read, and it says, "The spirit of oak is held deep within our collective memory. It asks us to listen to the sound of the wind so we can hear the voice of the divine within us and around us." I was seeing that it's actually a common practice to stack rocks, whether by a tree or on a tree stump or just by itself somewhere in nature. This is present in cultures across the globe on every continent, most commonly referred to as a cairn, Cairn. And this practice was essentially using stone markers for spiritual significance. They were also a way to practice gratitude, set up by bodies of water or by trees, calling in and expressing gratitude, support. It's like an offering to the nature gods for healing and wisdom. So I guess there was something to my little brief stint, and I guess this was probably elementary school. I wish that I had some reference or documentation of this in an old diary, but I didn't really keep to a diary or journal that well when I was growing up. I would start it, I would write a couple things about students at school, the crush I had, and then I wouldn't use it for years. And then I would come back and then I would comment on that. And it's like, I didn't really say what I was up to and what I was doing. So I can only really go off of memory. But yeah, I love that something that felt so completely random came in as a memory while reading a book about spiritual awakenings. And there is a lot of spiritual significance to this practice and what I was doing that I didn't even realize at the time. So this all checks out that even though I didn't even know what intuition was, I started, maybe even as a baby, as my mom has said, started connecting with spirits knowingly or unknowingly. I would say mostly knowingly is when I've been an adult in the last 5 years, but unknowingly was most of my life, clearly. But I do think it's fascinating when you're talking about past lives, which of course I was discussing before and has come up on this podcast previously. I've had people read me, and my own readings from my own past lives of tracing pretty far back. Really cool to consider that I was a little kid and inadvertently continuing this practice that I didn't know about, wouldn't have been able to learn about at that time, and yet I was just for some reason doing it. The segment you have been waiting for. We have our next collective reading. In case you missed it, there was the 2026 forecast that both Christine and I recorded at the end of 2025. Make sure to go back in your feed and listen to that. I also did a life updates and psychic forecast episode that came out the first week of May and covered that whole month. So this is our next check-in. These are all supplementary to that larger arc and forecast. And of course, I have my own individual astrology and psychic forecasts on my website if you would like to check those out. But what came through when I sat down to channel for this is to focus on very specifically August 16th through 18th. I have not looked at the astrology. I have no idea why this time period was targeted and why it is so far in the future from when I'm recording this and when this episode is supposed to drop. So that is a mystery to only us, because when I asked this question to Spirit, what came through was there's a buildup to this point. So between when this is airing and this actual date that I'm forecasting out to, quote, a hefty warning and lead time is crucial. So buckle up, everybody. I'm going to be using tarot cards from the Moonchild Tarot deck. And the first card that we have is the Seven of Cups, LOL. For anyone who is not familiar, the significance of this card is abundance of choice, but also a wariness of being disillusioned or duped. So yeah, if this reading is meant to be some sort of a warning, we're getting told well in advance. Something is coming that might be too good to be true. We have to read the fine print. We think whoever is delivering this news and opportunity is trustworthy, but that is actually not the case. It doesn't necessarily mean that this is a malicious scenario. They could be unknowingly thinking, hey, this is great, this is wonderful, let me share this with you. I just learned this the other day, I just read this. We can't just assume because we like or believe that we trust this source, this person. They have faults and flaws, biases, and there is a chance that they're not going to see things actually as they are. And we don't want that to get transferred over to us. So the encouragement here is putting on our glasses, X-ray vision glasses, because we want to be able to see through what's coming, see through what's happening, see through the BS so that we don't get bamboozled. All right, next part of the reading, I got the nudge to pull 2 cards to go together in a storyline. Ace of Swords and Queen of Pentacles. What a turn of events. The Ace of Swords is an epiphany. It's an aha moment. That checks out with what we're talking about. We need the information to be clear. We need to see through what's going on. We need a moment of enlightenment, of clarity. It's a beginning. When we have this seed of insight, we can make our decisions. We can start over. We can start fresh. It feels like starting fresh. And second to that, we have the Queen of Pentacles. This is about abundance, Mother Nature type energy. Sitting here talking about collecting rocks and putting them by a tree. We have a little bit of that going on here. Connected, abundant. And these are linked, which means that our thoughts are becoming a reality. Our thoughts are shaping, informing our abundance. The insights helping us to be more abundant, more grounded too. It's not just about more. It's about being. That's in all caps, bolded, underlined with exclamation points. As a way of combating whatever it is that's coming through, that is a illusion or a delusion. We're seeking clarity, to ground, to find what's real. And it seems like I'm already getting jumped to pull our last card in here, which will close out this reading for, again, a very specific, interesting timeline. And what we have for our last card, the Two of Cups. We have another Cups card. And this is about a choice. Whenever we have twos, it's choice, it's a dichotomy. This is about our relationship. What's coming through is our relationship with time management, our perception of time. When we go down a rabbit hole, when we are in flow or out of flow, we're seeking to get in flow. So when we fold all of this together, somebody presenting us with something that sounds, and in fact is, too good to be true. We're realizing this through an epiphany, revelation, insight that will actually allow us to ground, achieve abundance, reshape our perception and perspective from a more reality to a being reality, which in turn allows us to change our relationship with ourself, relationship to time. I cannot wait to look at the astrology. Let me ask, am I allowed to look? Can I speak on it? Yes. Oh my gosh, this is exciting. Okay, let me look now. You'll hear my response in real time to see what's actually happening. We're at the very tail end of Leo season, and we have the moon in either Libra or Scorpio. That's water sign, air sign, which we did have that. We had 2 cups cards, which is water, swords cards, which is air. And only a few days prior, we had an eclipse. Oh my gosh, it's eclipse season. We're in eclipse season at this point. Oh my gosh, no wonder we need this info. No wonder. What's going to happen is on the 12th, we have the new moon solar eclipse in Leo. I talked about this in the 2026 forecast episode, so go check that segment out. You can also get details on my blog when this comes up. If you have my 2026 life path calendar, you already have some tea on this. You can search for it. We're going to be in the energy portal of this, and then we'll still have to have the second eclipse come up at the end of August. So our 2 eclipses this year, rather than being in September, are in August. We're getting this information and insight so we can prepare for whatever is disrupted, whatever comes into the light. Leo, ruled by the sun, Leo season, feels like it's confident, feels like it has conviction, and yet it is not. We have to remember with eclipses, they are beginnings and endings. We could have that revelation, that insight, but we don't want to hitch our wagon to something that might actually have a short shelf life and be an ending that can sour on us quickly. Mercury is in Leo during this time as well, so we have a lot of energy that is focused in this area. And we might be feeling excited and playful. This is great. Wow. But it does seem like it's not a reality check. It's not a downer. it's going to be great and supportive for us to have this information. So we just want to be on the lookout for it. That was super fun. Very mini forecast. And for whatever reason, this needed to come out now so that you're aware of it. You can mark it in your calendar. It's coming across like maybe put some reminders between now and then so that you can keep it top of mind so you are not caught off guard when that thing comes up when we get there and it's too late and then you just kind of forget. At least one reminder in advance of the 16th. Please write in if you kind of already have a suspicion about what this might be about for you. And if not, feel free to circle back on this later. Send me an email, leave a comment with what actually transpired in August at that point. I would love to hear, and I have to make a note for myself so that I can remember to keep track and then talk about it when we get there. I hope you enjoyed this reading. I hope that you enjoyed the Roman lore miniseries as much as I did. Stay excited for the third and final cultural miniseries. Coming to your feed next week is episode 5 of the Soul Rising Book Club miniseries. I'm going to be talking about chapters 15 through 19. This is the largest batch of chapters that we have read thus far for one episode. I have already recorded it, and there was a lot to say. So make sure to catch up on your reading and keep in mind that the next episode after that will also be another Soul Rising Book Club. Yes, I am teasing out the timeline before we get to our final culture of the season.
Thanks for listening. If you'd like to learn more, the resources we used to prepare for this episode are listed in the show notes.
If you're curious to develop your intuition, we've partnered with the Nuurvana Be Light program to give our listeners a $500 discount on tuition fees. Email us for more details and we'll connect you with the founder, Deganit Noor.
Want to connect with us? You can reach me, Christine, at Channeled by Christine with 1 L on Instagram.
And you can reach me, Renee, at _read by Renee, or connect with us both via email at synergytosynastry@gmail.com.
Keep your spirit curious and your aura sparkling.
We'll see you when the stars next align.